Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm so excited to share with you a little chatty get ready with me style video. The Sephora sale is coming up, or it might already be here depending on when this video goes up. There's a few things on my wish list, so we are going to use products I already have in my collection to see if I want to purchase these wish list products and if I'm going to skip on them for now, and then at the end I will share with you what I am going to add to my cart and bring home during the sale. Without further hesitation, let's get right into this video. The way I want to do this is relate each product I'm sharing with you to something I have on my Sephora wish list. The primer I've chosen is the One Size Secure the Blur Makeup Magnet Primer. I love this primer. It is a beautiful, pore blurring, wrinkle smoothing base, and it really grips onto makeup quite well. The primers that I'm curious to try are the CLIO So Blown Pore Smoothing Primer and the Huda Beauty Easy Blur Jelly Primer. They both look really intriguing. I'm not going to be purchasing either of them right now because this is over half a bottle full, so I don't really need to add another one of those primers to my collection just because it's redundant. And if I buy them, then what's going to happen to this primer? Is it just going to sit there? My goal is to use up the products I have before I buy something new. I know as far as the beauty content creation sphere, it's not always the most exciting thing to not feature a ton of new products, but perspective of a consumer, someone who is spending their money on these products, it's nice to get use out of the stuff that we own instead of always buy and then throwing away hundreds of thousands of dollars in product when something goes bad because we didn't finish it. That's my mindset. I'm trying to be a much more realistic and practical consumer. The next product I'm very tempted to purchase straddles the line between primer and highlighter. One Size Beauty B12 Mixing Drop. I've swatched in store. It's a really beautiful neutral pink with a warm golden pearl, and it's made to either use as like a base thinner or an illuminator. We have is the AURIC Low Lusted Morganite. The second one we have is the Chanel Blanc Rosy Lighting Drops. AURIC is a little bit more of a neutral beige, and the Chanel is a silvery, cool toned pink. Neither of them are quite the same shade as the One Size, but I feel like these are both a little bit more cool in undertone than the One Size, but I feel like we will see how they play with the foundation. There's a handful of foundations. I had a car service appointment the other week and I was downtown. I was at one of the really big Sephoras in downtown Toronto. I did a lot of foundation swatching because there are several formulas I'm really curious to try out, like the Anastasia Immaculate Foundation, a new shade in Estee Lauder Double Wear. Huda Beauty Easy Blur is another one that looks gorgeous. I would like to try the Lawless Forget the Filler Foundation, One Size Liquid Foundation that just recently came out. I've got foundation I would like to get more use out of. Today I'm using the Haus Labs. I have to mix two shades. I have shades 015 Warm, 110 Light Neutral. A little bit goes a long way, so I have some in the back of my hand, just a dot of the AURIC, just a tiny little bit. I am going to do my best just to mix it in right here. With Haus Labs, I always like to mention this. This is a foundation I really like, and it's one of the very few foundations my husband complains about. He's normally like not someone who has a lot of opinions as far as like the makeup I wear or how things look, but there's something about Haus Labs that he just always says looks very makeup-y, or there has been like a bad makeup day and he thinks I should go back to the #1 to Chanel. But I always tell him that Haus Labs is a really beautiful foundation. It's just sometimes when I mix things into it, like I was mixing in a matte foundation last summer, that was not the best match. Also, something else with the Haus Labs foundation, at least what I've experienced, is you really need to use restraint. If you are someone who likes to apply a lot of foundation and you over apply the Haus Labs, it is going to look very makeup-y very quickly. So now on the other half where I have this undisturbed bit, I am going to put a drop of the Chanel Blanc Rosy Lighting Drop. Interesting. Off the bat, you can already see this is going a lot more silvery than the AURIC did, which makes sense because the Chanel Blanc is a light pink base with like a silver pearl going through it. Even though it's mixed in, you can definitely smell that signature Chanel floral. I did wipe wipe off my brush. So this is a BK Beauty number 106. Same brush on both sides. I just wiped off quickly in between. I'm not sure if I applied more or what, but I feel like I'm getting a little bit more coverage on the Chanel side. Although I feel like the side where I mixed the AURIC, where the AURIC Glow Lust is a little bit more neutral in undertone compared to Chanel, I feel like the AURIC side is doing a little bit better for redness. Both are doing equally beautiful for shearing out the formula. Let's look a little bit closer and see what happens. Both sides look fairly undetectable on the skin. They look really pretty. Right here on the front of my pores, on the Chanel side and on my nose, I do see a little bit of product settling in my pores, but if I just extend it ever so slightly, I don't see anything. It's only when I am way up close in the mirrors when I see anything settling. Both sides look really pretty. The AURIC does look slightly smoother. That little bit of warmth in the AURIC base does make a difference as far as my overall redness. Between the two, I would stick with mixing in the AURIC Glow Lust over the Chanel. I like the Chanel more as a highlight. Neither have impacted the overall feeling on the skin. Neither of them feel tacky. Take all those like more nitpick details away. These are both beautiful mixed into the foundation. They sheared it out. They added just a pinch of luminosity, not a month. I used very, very small amounts of both products, so it's not going to overly impact the overall glow, but it just made it feel a little bit more like moisturized skin. So I feel like I am good on skipping out on the one size B12 base thinner and mixing these in. But once I finish with these, I would definitely like to try the one size. Similarly for the makeup primer, I love my one size primer. I do want to try the CLIO as well as the Huda Beauty, but I'm gonna stick with this. And again, same thing for the foundation. I like Haus Labs. My only complaint is I don't have a perfect shade match I need to mix to, and these are around $60 a piece here in Canada. Going forward, unless I can find a better shade match, I would like to try something where I don't need to mix shades to find my perfect shade. If you're curious and you can find a great shade match in the Haus Labs foundation, continue with it, especially when you can save some money like in the Sephora Spring Savings event that's coming up next week. As far as liquid and cream contours or bronzers, I have two on my Sephora wish list. One is the Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt Liquid, which it looks gorgeous. I just don't do a lot of liquid bronzing. I have had this WESTMAN Atelier Face Trace Contour Stick in Biscuit for far too long. I am getting towards the end of it. And then the other one I have on my list, which looks really beautiful, is the Rare Beauty Soft Pinch Liquid Contour in the shade Gentle. The Makeup Mario, I think, is in shade Fair. I think I'm gonna keep those bookmark for now and stick to finishing off my WESTMAN Atelier, and then we'll work through the other ones. And if those are still on my mind whenever I run out, then I would happily give them a purchase. But for now, I can skip that. There is a cream blush that is really catching my attention right now, and I feel like I have two in my collection that are similar, so we're gonna try them out. The cream blush that I'm keen to try is the Fenty Beauty Cheeks Out cream blush in this shade Strawberry Drip, which is a really beautiful, more neutral leaning cool coral red. It looks so pretty. And I know I'm a little late to the red blush trend, but I just recently went on a big Sephora swatching journey, and I found a few reds that jumped out to me, and of all those, my favorite was the Fenty Beauty. Today I'm trying two that I have in my collection. Neither of them are quite the same shade as the Fenty Beauty. The one I'm applying now is a mini size of the Rare Beauty Soft Pinch Liquid Blush. This is in the shade Happy. It's described as a cool pink on my skin. It is more of a neutral leaning warm coral pink. It's beautiful. Applying two thin layers. I really enjoy the Rare Beauty liquid blushers. I don't use them a ton just because they've got so much pigment. If you are not careful, you can go overboard very, very quickly. I like to work a tiny little dot, and that's That's why I love this mini size, and I purchased this mini size during one of the last Sephora sales, and I use it quite frequently. And one dot from this teeny tiny little applicator, once you kind of scrape it off, that is what I work off the back of my hand, and I like to use my foundation brush so it's diluted. But that gives a really beautiful flush to the cheeks. I find on the two full-size ones I have, even after I wipe off the full-size doe foot applicator, can still get a little too much. The other blush I have to try out, this is definitely more red, so this is really more of a cool ruby red. Pixi On the Glow blush in the shade Ruby. We'll do this on this side. Rare Beauty and Happy versus Ruby. Happy is a lot warmer than Ruby. Ruby almost looks like a sheer violet red on the back of the hand. Ruby on the cheeks is something I feel like would be a great winter red. If you're someone who likes to add that very wintry, snow-flushed, wind-flushed look, Ruby is gonna be really beautiful. For summer, if you want to do like a sun-flushed look on very fair skin, this could be really pretty, especially if you're someone who doesn't have any warmth. If you were someone like a true summer or true winter seasonal color palette, you could use a shade like this to mimic like a sun-flushed look. Whereas if you're someone who's a little bit more neutral, you want a little bit more of that true sun-kissed pinky look, something like the shade Happy from Rare Beauty would be a better fit in my opinion. But that does have a little bit of warmth in it. You can definitely see the Ruby looks a little bit more at home in my more neutral leaning cool tone skin, whereas the shade Happy with it has a kiss of warmth. That warmth wants to lift and pull the cheek forward. I've got two great contenders, one for slightly colder weather, one for warmer weather, and I don't need to spend the money on the Fenty. I can always go back to the Fenty Beauty later on when I run out of one of these blushers. If you are shopping at the Sephora sale and you want a beautiful color corrector and your skin is more on the normal to slightly dry to slightly oily side, I highly recommend the Huda Beauty Faux Filter. I have 3 different shades. I don't feel like you need 3 different shades, but I continued purchasing the less than ideal shades for me in the beginning. So now I use my wardrobe of color correctors to color correct in certain areas. So the shade I just used in my inner and outer corner of my eyes is the shade Cherry Blossom, light pink for cool tone skins, and this is going to be fair to light skin tones. The next shade I'm going to use is the shade Pink Pomelo. This is going to be a pink leaning orange shade, and again this is best for, I would say, light to light medium skin, and it definitely has more warmth in it. So if you are someone who has stronger blue or purple undertones, you might enjoy this. I always like to take a little bit right over. I used to do all of my color correcting under my foundation, but I found when I do a little bit of foundation and then I go over with my color corrector, I need a lot less. I didn't apply any type of foundation under my eyes because I like to keep my under eye layers thin, where I've lightened up on my Botox. My under eyes do have a little bit more movement, and that movement does lead to product settling a little bit more. So I don't feel like getting Botox, so until I do, I'm just gonna keep my under eye placement a lot thinner. And that's something I used to use on a lot of my mature clients when I was working as a freelance artist. Keep the under eyes thin, so that way when something does settle, you have 1 thin layer settling versus 3 heavier layers settling. Now I'm gonna use my warmest color corrector. This is the shade Peach, and this is going to be a true peachy orange, and this is going to help to knock back those blue shadows. So anywhere around my mouth where I have the most blue from any type of like beard shadowing, that is where I like to use that. And now I'm going to mix and match my concealers. I am curious to try the Power 28 concealer. There is not a particular shade. I think the shade BU 2.0 is a shade that looks best for my skin tone, but I have a few in my collection. I love my Tarte Shape Tape Ultra Creamy. I have the shade 16N. This is beautiful, either under the eyes or around the mouth. I generally like to do a little dot there. Sometimes I'll put a little dot right under my eyes, and then I like to dot a tiny little bit around my color corrector, and I just use the point of the applicator. And the Tarte is a really beautiful concealer because it gives you coverage, it gives you pigment, but where it is the ultra creamy formula, it doesn't dry down into that kind of more cakey finish that a lot of us grew accustomed to with the original Tarte Shape Tape. I do like to add a little bit more pink and a little bit of brightness under my eyes. So for that, I'm going to use my NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer in the shade Vanilla, which I think is L2. Yeah, Light 2 Vanilla. I like a little bit right here. And then around my mouth, I'll even take a little bit right around the outer corner and in the smile line just to brighten up and bounce off some shadow. I'm going to stick with my foundation brush. So far, this is the only brush I've used to apply anything. With my chin, where I did a little bit more heavy duty color correcting, I don't want to end up with like this yellow orange goatee of colors. So I tend to take my foundation brush and I will start stippling out. It's going to take that residual product and spread it out. And I know beard coverage or beard shadow is not something everyone needs to do. A trans person, or if you're someone who has something like PCOS and you have unwanted facial hair and you remove it, sometimes you can get that beard shadowing. Or if you have something like melasma, you can use these techniques to balance out your skin tone without having to rely on a full coverage opaque foundation. Anything I have left over, I'm just going to blend down my neck. I also have my Huda Beauty Faux Filter Concealer in the shade Yogurt Drop. This is not something I always do, but something I will do is put a dot on the inner corner of my eye, one between my brows, one on the tip of my nose. Sometimes I will do a little dot right on the smile lines, a little bit on the corner of the mouth, pinch on the tip of the chin. Since this is a little bit lighter, brighter, it has a little bit more pink to it, this can be really beautiful for brightening and adding a highlight. So then I'll just go through and tap my brush over, and this is going to almost act like my little magic eraser for bouncing light and pulling the light forward. Getting the inner corner of the eyes is a little tricky. I am going to use my little Hourglass Vanish concealer brush. These concealers are all so beautiful. Really don't feel the need to go out and buy a new concealer right now, so no new concealer for me. Before I do any type of powder, I'm going to use a little bit of my Urban Decay All Nighter. Bounce over with my Real Techniques Miracle Face and Body Sponge. It is a large sponge, but it makes quick work of blending your makeup out very quickly. And it's currently dry. I love using a dry sponge or a wet sponge. It just really depends on what my mood is for the day. Today is a dry sponge type of day. And that's just nice for just pushing everything in. And then once I have that on, I will give my skin another generous mist. If they have the 2-pack of the Urban Decay All Nighter, I might purchase that during the Sephora sale, but this bottle is over half full, so I might not need another bottle right now. That will just kind of be, if I can justify the purchase, then I will. If not, I feel like I might run out of my All Nighter before the fall winter savings event, then I might go ahead and get the 2-pack if they have it available. If they don't, then I will wait for the 2-pack to come out during the holidays, because that is such a great savings in itself. That way you're already getting additional savings with buying the 2 together, and then if you put the 10, 15, 20%, whatever your Sephora discount is on top of it, great for saving money. There are several loose powders on my wish list, but I've got my giant tub of loose powder, so I'm just gonna use this and live my life. I am working my way through this vat of powder way quicker than I thought I would, but it's also really beautiful. Several months ago, I mixed all of my loose powders I owned into this container, and then in another smaller container, I mixed more of my pink brightening powders, and I have just been as happy as can be with these powders. And there's something about these powders, with them all mixed together, they just apply like a dream. The thing that I don't know is, I don't know which powder it is, or if it's a combination of all of them, because I think there's things like the It Cosmetics Bye Bye Pores powders, there's the By Terry Hyaluronic Hydra powder, there's the e.l.f. Halo Glow powder, Laura Mercier Translucent powder, there's another powder, the original Givenchy Prism Libre loose powder and Mousseline Pastel is in here. Oh, and a Maybelline Fit Me loose powder. There's just several different powders that are mixed in here, and it just looks so pretty with them all mixed together. The only powder that is on my wish list that I would really like to get my hands on right now, as far as loose powders, would have to be the Huda Beauty Cherry Blossom Cake. I have Cupcake and I have Sugar Cookie, and I love those. Since I have my tubs of powder, I tend to save those for special occasions, but I would love to have the pink powder when I run out of these other powders and just use the Huda Beauty powder, because for my more balanced to oily skin, the Huda Beauty Loose Easy Bake powder is so beautiful for smoothing out the look of pores and fine lines, and it just sets your makeup so beautifully. And I'm a big fan of that really beautiful baked good smell. There's not a powder bronzer on my wish list, but for today's video, I want to share with you an underrated bronzer that I love, and I've mentioned before, and it is more of a pricey product, so if you can save some money, do it. This is the Gucci Luminous Matte Blush. This is shade 05 Rosy Beige, and a lot of people love this as a blush. I love this as a bronzer using my same brush. This is a BK Beauty number 103. I believe this is their bronzer brush. I am using this for this blush as a bronzer, but I also use this as my powder brush. So this is going to diffuse and blend out. I always like to take a little bit right under my chin, a little bit on the nose. It's subtle, it's beautiful, but this gives my skin one of the most realistic looking bronze shades. I don't turn overly golden, my skin's a lot more pink, so when I get too much sun, I tend to go red. So using a more muted blushy shade of bronzer with a little bit of a red or pink works really well. The only powder bronzer that's on my wish list is the Jones Road, I believe it's called like Rosy bronzer. That looks really beautiful. I swatched it when I was at Liberty London and it was so pretty, but I just don't need another powder bronzer because I use my bronzers so sparingly that they last for way longer than they should. Powder highlight that's really catching my attention is the new Dior highlighters. They are beautiful in that lush silver packaging. I like shade 03, which is the pink shade, but I already have the previous formula of the Dior refillable highlighters, and I have shade 02 Pink Glow, which looks pretty much identical to the new one. So I am just going to continue to use and love this one. And these Dior highlighters, they are so impactful. Unless you are using it every single day, every single makeup look, it will last you for a long time. You need such a small amount of product. I've only swatched the Dior highlighters, the new ones on hand, but if they're anything like this, it gives you glow without ever looking powdery or metallic on the skin. Downside is they are Dior, they are quite pricey, but they are beautiful. I'm gonna go ahead and apply lips. I do have a little bit of the Lawless Forget the Filler Overnight Lip Plumpy Mask in the shade Sweet Daisy. I mentioned this in my recent skincare routine video, but I purchased this during the previous Sephora savings event as like my overnight lip balm. I don't like a plumping tingle when I go to bed, so this has become my morning lip balm. I'm just gonna blot off whatever's left of my lips. I am going to line my lips using the Glossier lip pencil in the shade Hold. If you are on the lookout for a beautiful pencil sharpener, the Glossier pencil sharpener is wonderful. There are two lip liners that I really am curious and tempted to purchase. One is from Tower 28 and one is from One Size Beauty. I think the one from One Size Beauty is shade Make It Known. They are pretty much the same color as this Glossier lip pencil. I love this Glossier lip pencil. The color is just so beautiful. The lipsticks I have on my wish list, the Satin Allure from Pat McGrath. It's the pastel blue packaging with a gold bow, and the shade is Divine Rose. And the other lipstick, I think it's so beautiful. It is so beautiful. Charlotte Tilbury Candy Chic lipstick. They both are gorgeous, but they remind me of this really beautiful lipstick I have from CoverGirl. This is in the shade number 260, Darling Kiss. Now, this is purely based on swatching those two on the back of my hand versus this one. This one does have a little bit more of a waxy kind of grip to it, where the Charlotte Tilbury and this Pat McGrath definitely had a little bit more of like a slip to them, but this shade is gorgeous. As far as eyeshadow, there's one palette on my wish list, and that is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Sugar Mini Palette. It's beautiful. The purple and blue shimmers speak to me, but do I use purple and blue shimmer often? No. So I went through my collection and I pulled out two eyeshadow palettes. Better Than I Quad from rom&nd. This is W02 and this is called Dried Peach Blossom. And the other is the CLIO Pro Palette Air in number 12 Crystal Paw. So I want to go slightly more neutral. Neutral with like a little bit of a warm pink. So I'm going to mix some of these shades together just to see if I can create a little bit of something warmer in my socket and then go slightly cooler. I am going to use a Makeup by Mario EF2 brush. I'm going to mix one of the matte pinks with a peach and see what we get. If you are comparing a K-Beauty formula, whether it's rom&nd or if it's Pear, CLIO, they are going to be much more sheer than your typical Western beauty eyeshadow palette. So like Anastasia Beverly Hills shadows tend to be quite rich, which those are nice. I can work with them, but ever since using more East Asian eyeshadows, I am just enamored with the sheerness because I can build these light washes of color, and whether I want to wear it full on or if I want to wear a little bit more sheer, it never feels too heavy. I'm gonna go a little bit richer with the cool tone pink and mix it with the peach, and I'm gonna stipple or press on with my brush, and then I'm gonna whisk and blend. I love that so much. Definitely not a shade that you're gonna find in the sugar palette, but for my mood and my desires, this is definitely filling a void. I ended up mixing this matte peach with a blend of these two matte pink. For the sugar palette, there is a really nice neutral light pink. So I'm gonna mix the light peach with the light peach with the side of the same brush and wipe it right over my eyelids. And something I love doing is taking these matte shades right after I've done my socket line, using the side of my brush to almost carve out the socket to create like a faux cut crease. I just love how it opens up the eye. And now I want some shimmers. So to play off the blue in the sugar palette, I'm gonna take this shimmery, put my blue on. I love that. Contrasted with the more peachy pink in the socket, this is beautiful. I think I've also talked myself out of the eyeshadow palette. Back to my Dior highlighter. I just want to put a little bit of this highlight right on the inner corner of the eye because it is a little bit more of a peach pink. It's almost like a pink cut with a little bit of beige and a little bit of peach. More of like a skin adjacent pink. But that just little bit of warmth is going to contrast the lid and make it pop even more. That is so pretty. A little bit of eyeliner. I'm going to use the Too Faced Better Than Sex in Chocolate. And I'm just gonna go right on top of the liquid liner with the dark matte brown from the CLIO palette. The only mascara that's on my current wish list is the YSL Lash Clash. I don't really want to spend that type of money on mascara right now. I'm gonna stick with my L'Oreal Telescopic Lift. I do like this mascara. It took me a bit to get used to. I do have the issue with this one though, where the stopper is wanting to come out of the tube. So that's a little bit frustrating because it's drying out a little prematurely. Okay, since the look is a little bit more pink than peach, I am going to layer some blushes because a powder blush, I am really tempted. There's two powder blushes I'm really tempted by. One is the new Tower 28 in the, I think it's called like Malibu Cooler. It's the matte, more Barbie pink. And then the other one is the Say Soft Suede powder blush in the shade Bella, which is a light pink. I don't know. Those both look beautiful, but I do have the Kosas Baked Blush, which reminds me of the Say, and I have RMS, which I love the glow. So I'm actually going to layer these two. So I'm going to start off with a shade that's not normally a shade I go for, but the shade was just too beautiful. I had to have it. This is the RMS ReDimension powder blush in the shade Bohemian Girl. want to carry in the peachiness, and even though I normally don't go for a lot of like peachy orange blushers, this blush formula in this shade was calling to me. And look how beautiful it is. This is just one of the most beautiful blushes. I have now purchased 5 shades of the RMS, and they are all so good. And if you are someone who wants a little bit of glow to your blush, but you don't want shimmer or glitter, these are the most beautiful blushes. And if you are in Canada, you can now get RMS Beauty on Amazon.ca, which is wonderful. I'm gonna go on top with the Kosas Blush is Life blush in the shade Butterflies, which is more of like a cool matte pink. And I'm gonna go right on top of the RMS just to cool it down. This is a baked formula, so it is a little bit more sheer. And layering over top of the more peachy luminous shade from RMS is going to just give me a little bit more of a soft pink with a hint of warmth coming through. It's gorgeous. For lips, I do have 2 lip glosses on my wish list, which I am not purchasing because I don't need them, but I want them. If you are gonna buy a lip gloss from Sephora, my top pick is the Lawless Forget the Filler. I own 3 shades. My Cherry Vanilla and Lavender Sorbet are both getting really low. These are beautiful. Cherry Vanilla might be my favorite, but the newest shade to my collection that I'm going to use today is called Daisy Girl. This is like a pale milky pink. I feel like between the colors I'm wearing and my top, it is definitely giving all of the watermelon feelings, which I don't mind. I love a good watermelon color story. And the final makeup product on my Sephora wish list, which I think is gonna probably be the only makeup product I purchased, is the Fenty Beauty Diamond Balm and How Many Carats. That's a product I've wanted for years. And I just feel like it's the one thing that when I go to Sephora, I always look at. I always am curious to try because I think it's one of those things that look just as beautiful on top of the cheeks for a night out as a really beautiful one and done shimmery eyelid eyeshadow. To kind of make up the place for that, I am using a Chanel Balm Essential. This is in the shade Lilas, and just give a little bit of glow right under. I think this shade was limited edition, but there are other shades available and they're all really beautiful. This little hair is going to get on my nerves, so you're just gonna pull that back. I am thinking about getting 2 smaller size fragrances. The one I am going to purchase 100% Jo Malone English Pear and Sweet Pea. I know it's not the most long-lasting fragrance, but it is gorgeous. Over the last couple months, my primary fragrance category of choice has been anything that smells like fluffy, fresh 1990s, early 2000s herbal essence products. One of my current favorites for that, which I think you can purchase at Sephora in the US, is Chanel Chance with Tendre. You want to smell like the pink herbal essence from the 90s, early 2000s. This is it. This is the Chanel Chance Hair Mist. Beautiful. For the rest of my fragrance, I'm going to be using Jo Malone's English Pear and Freesia. I love this. English Pear and Freesia and English Pear and Sweet Pea are slightly different. The Sweet Pea is a little bit brighter. It's a little bit more fun. It's a little bit more bubbly. I've been thinking about it for over a year. I was at Heathrow Airport. There was a little Jo Malone in duty free, and I almost purchased the English Pear and Freesia when I was there, but I decided not to. I was buying too many other things. I was just like, I don't need it. But it hasn't left my memory for over a year. So I'm gonna go ahead and purchase another little small size like this. There's just something about Jo Malone. Yes, the scents are rather fleeting. They are light. They are definitely a little bit more sophisticated with a touch of whimsy added to them. I really, really enjoy them. English Pear and Freesia, English Pear and Sweet Pea. When I want something a little bit deeper, a little bit more rich, I love Scarlet Poppy. And my original favorite that I've been through 2 bottles of already is Keeny and Blush Suede. That was also the scent of candle I had for like my wedding scent. That is going to conclude today's video. Not a ton of products I really am keen to buying. So right now, if I'm thinking realistically, I'm gonna probably end up waiting for the holiday sale to repurchase the Urban Decay All Nighter, because I do have like a MAC Fix Plus Stay Over. I have an e.l.f. blue light spray, so I don't really need another bottle of the Urban Decay right this moment. So then I'm gonna probably end up just purchasing the Jo Malone English Pear Sweet Pea mini size, the Fenty Beauty Diamond Balm, and if I feel very frisky, then I might purchase the mini travel spray of the Ellis Brooklyn Apple Love. I am not normally an apple fragrance person, but there is something about that scent that is just so enchanting. It reminds me of Giselle from Enchanted, the Disney movie. It is one of my favorite movies ever. Something about like chemistry between the cast that is just so wonderful. It's so warm and enchanting. I love it. I love it so much. And that just Apple Love makes me think of that movie. So I want it. And I'm gonna do the mini size because I don't really need any full-size fragrances. The rate I go through a large bottle of fragrance, I am better off just buying the smaller spray bottle, and it saves me money long term. I hope you found this video helpful, enjoyable, hearing my thought process and the products I recommend over things I'm tempted to buy. I hope you found that enjoyable. Let me know if there's anything you're planning on purchasing during the Sephora sale. If not, then let me know the product that you are loving it right now. Until we see each other again, take care of yourself wherever it is you're around the world, and I will see you later. Bye, y'all.